So bear with me because we have an amazing topic, which is email, right? Not that exciting. Who sends email invites? Raise your hand if you send an invite ever. All right, good. If you're not raising your hand, Alex, you're not raising your hand. Thank you. Welcome to Invitation Innovation. So we're going to talk about a couple of things today, with really the core subject line being, is this invite really non-transferable? And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. My name is Brennan McReynolds, also known as the early bird at Event Farm. We all have farm titles because we don't take ourselves that seriously. Nick is in the back, he's herding, and that's we all have responsibilities around our title. So at Event Farm, if you're tweeting while we're here, and obviously Texty Talk. So let's get this started. What do we do at Event Farm? Just to give you a quick high-level overview, we are a custom-branded invitation, registration, and mobile check-in platform. Think of it as an online reg tool with invitation and a mobile check-in app, but really with a brand-focused, a brand-centric solution. We're event planners ourselves. Everything you see here from a software standpoint started 8 years as a piece of code for events that we were planning ourselves. So this has grown out of our own pain points and pain points that you guys obviously experience probably every day as well. Some of our brand partners and brands that we work with, and just to show you kind of the types of audiences that we're dealing with, because today is not about selling tickets or having a public reg site. The purpose of this talk is to talk about invitations and email. And what that really comes down into is, why do we send invitations? Pretty basic, simple question, right? We want to get people to our event. Non-transferability, what does that really mean? Email deliverability, if we're sending emails, are we sending the right emails? Are emails getting in the inbox? Which is also a big challenge, as a lot of us know. And obviously, how do we get beyond email and invitation standpoint? So why do we send invites? So everybody raised their hand, said, hey, I send email invites. It's opportunity to brand our event. We're conditioning the marketplace to get excited about our event, what we're doing, informing them, and obviously tracking RSVPs. Very simple, we're informing audiences. We have different vehicles to inform our audiences across the events platform. How many people have responded to a Facebook invite? How many people, keep your hand raised if you know you have Facebook events in your Facebook profile that you haven't responded to. Exactly, everybody raise their hand. So what we're talking about here is understanding your audience, how you're targeting them, and inviting them to your events. So there's all kinds of different tools here. We can go down the line. We've all used Evite, Paperless Post is great, Eventbrite's great, and then there's obviously our tool, all along the purpose of communicating and targeting our audiences and getting them in the door to the event. The most basic part of events. The original event technology is an email invite. We've seen the really cool stuff today. This is the basic email invites, right? So let's talk about, if you're not using one of these tools, you're doing it the old school way. And I'm going to need to look for some guilty hands here in a minute. These are representations of a JPEG that was attached to your email client where somebody BCC'd 500 people, 100 people, and they put at the bottom, RSVP to this address, this invite is not transferable. Now, who's willing to raise their hand and say they've done this before? How long ago? If it's in the last week, we need to talk, like serious intervention. If there's anything you guys learn here today, don't do this. There's a lot of tools, whether it's ourselves or there's the guys at Splash, eTouches, Eventbrite. Just stop doing this. Please save yourself the time and headache of attaching a JPEG and saying this invite is non-transferable. We are in the business at Event Farm of restricting access. Do we sell tickets? Absolutely. Do we have public registration sites? Every day of the week. But over 2/3 of our business is what we call invite to RSVP or invite only. There's no public registration page. There's no event page for you to go and see, hey, this is my event in the public domain. Are you coming, yes or no? Dear Nick, are you coming? You've been invited, yes or no? That's all we need to know. And we're going to track that invite on the back end. We're going to see how many confirms yes, how many confirm no, and I want to be able to message those guests and communicate purposefully and meaningfully to my targeted audience. Do I need to communicate to press separately than VIPs, separately than general admission? Absolutely. That's restricted access. That's targeting your audiences on a very purposeful standpoint. And that's what we're here to talk about. So non-transferably, it's a word that is overused, that we all put on images, but we don't really mean it because we're not enforcing it. So let's stop doing that. How do we do that? Because it's hard. It's not easy to do, and that's why we've all been guilty, including myself, of sending out an image and saying, hey, this is RSVP to Brennan at Event Farm. This invite is not transferable. Because then what do I have to do? I have to monitor every single email that comes in my inbox and say, all right, did I invite this person? Did I not? Who's this person? Okay, this is a friend of somebody else. Okay, oh my gosh, my life just got crazy. And for those of you who have done it that way, you wouldn't understand what I'm talking about. So RSVP tracking, guest forwarding, just mentioned that. Name change. Okay, what if I can't go? Can I bring my friend? Can my friend go to my place? Oh my gosh. Not easy. Oh, what can I bring a +1? What's my wife? Stop. If you're doing that by hand, it's tough, and there's ways around that. So let's explore a little bit of how we can solve that. Hard-coded invitations, and I'll show you an example of what this means. And there's different solutions based off the technology you're using in the partner. But hard-coded invitations that each and every one of you, if you're invited to Planner Tech, would have your own invitation in your name. So if you'd forward it to your friend or your partner that's sitting next to you, got to know 5 minutes ago, you sent them their invite, they're not able to sign up unless they receive an invitation. You can't change a name. That's hard-coding invitation. Assigning a unique identifier for verification, i.e. an email or an access code. You received an invite, please now go to this, maybe it's a public site, and the ability to put in your email address or a unique access code or identifier, maybe it's an account number, to actually access your invitation, fill out your information, and move forward. Make sense? Everybody good? We're 13 minutes away from coffee. Hang in there. All right. The fourth way is having interns, lots and lots of interns. We have a lot of clients here in New York that they send out. When they start, before they're using us, they have interns that sit over the summer, and all they do is process RCP at blank.com, and they're tracking, putting into Excel, and then that's their invite list. That's challenging. It's difficult. It's time-consuming. So how do we do this? And let's show you guys an example of what a hard-coded invitation really means. So we're going to go back into the farm here. Here's an example of an event. And what we can see here is you have your total confirmed guest count, our exposure, how many invites we've sent out, how many people actually have said yes, and on the back end, because there's a mobile check-in app, how many people actually showed up. So now it's a chain of custody. It's a private invite-only event. We're able to track, did they receive their email? Did they open it? Did they RSVP? And did they show up? It's valuable information to have, especially when you're doing repeat events, because now we're tracking behavior, and that's what's most important. So let's actually go in here and show you guys what we're talking about when we talk about hard-coded invitations. Now, there's obviously ways to do this. Cvent also does this. Eventbrite does it. So there's other ways you can restrict access. Here's my invite. You can see that I sent myself an email today at 12:19. I opened it. But say, for whatever reason, and we're going to get into email deliverability here in a second, but say somebody said, I didn't receive my invite, I can obviously resend it, but I want to see what that link is. What does Brennan's invite really look like? That's that link. That's a secure, dynamically generated invitation link in my name. That's really boring, and it's a lot of characters, and you're not going to copy and paste that anywhere, because if you do, and you send it to your friend, they are just signing me up. So this is the event page, RSVP for myself, and then in this case, we wanted to request. So all this information, my name, I can't change it. This is my invite. Nobody can invite on top of mine. You can ask and you can confirm additional contact information if you don't have it already, but it's really, really important that when you want to have and restrict access and talk to, invite to specific people, you have the ability to do that. So let's get out of there. Email deliverability. So we've talked about the importance of transferability and non-transferability and be able to control that. But now we got to talk about the inbox, right? Because we all hate email, but yet it's still the primary means of communicating and inviting people to our events. So how do we make sure our invites are getting into the inbox? I look at it as content equals clicks. If you have good content, you're going to get clicks on your invite. People are going to RSVP, get the right people in the room, and that's targeting audiences. So 7 easy, please follow these. We spend a lot of time every day on the farm talking to clients because our platform is a tool to use. They can abuse our tool And that's not good for any of our clients because it affects our ability to send reputable emails. We're in the business of sending emails and restricting access. So the better our clients use our tools, the better our email reputation is. So let's go through these real quick. No large images or attachments, pretty straightforward. Just don't send a 4 meg file or put that image in there. It's just not a good idea. All right? 60-40 ratio text to image. If you're going to have an image, make sure you have text because nobody here in this room, I don't care who you are, can control how Outlook at a certain client is going to render that email. Can't do it. We can't do it because we get those calls every day. Hey, this didn't appear in Gmail for so-and-so. I can't do it. It's good to test. Test Outlook. Test your Apple Mail. Test Gmail. Make sure everything, test web access or web email browsers to see how your emails are going to render appropriately. Know your audience. If it's a corporate client, you're going to know that a lot of people are using Outlook. If it's a social gathering and it's more influencer, blogger-based, everyone's going to be Gmail. Make sure you test the system that fits your audience. All about targeting audiences. If you have HTML, make sure there's backup for plain text. Email personalization, and we'll look at a couple examples here in a second. If you have the ability to embed tags that say, Dear Brennan, Dear Nick, or Hi Brennan, you've been invited by Nick. It's really, really important that if Brennan matches this, if emails to me and my name's in the to line, and I'm also the subject line or the subject line and or the body actually has my name in it, that helps with email deliverability. Let's get smart about how we send emails. No spammy words. Sounds simple, right? Don't put free in your subject line if you're sending an invite, and I don't think a lot of you do. I hope you don't, and if you do, you're kind of lowering your head right now. But now, no, only. Viagra, don't put that in, like, unless you work for Pfizer, I guess you could have a Viagra event, that's fine. But any words like that are going to trigger a filter to actually kick out your email. We don't want that. And have a reputable sender. Make sure that whether it's your own server or the company you're working with has a good email reputation, is in the business of sending emails, and is here to inform and help you send a proper email. So let's look at a couple examples of what I mean by emails. And we're 8 minutes away from. So here is the email for the invite that we just sent ourselves, where I showed you guys. This is actually a header image in black with welcome new members. This text is controlled within Event Farm. This is not an image, because you see Hi Brennan. That changes per guest. You can insert an RSVP button that takes you to that secure link that you saw, but we're still editing. This is in a text editor very similar to how we use Microsoft Word or any other kind of what you see, what you get editor on the web. Social Media Week for those that went last year, just a header image. Click here to RSVP, really straightforward. Movember, amazing global nonprofit. This was a big image. Actually, there's no really client-specific text here, so you don't know who's being delivered. These got through. These are really good. This is an upfront that we did with Nuvo TV. This is a really big image. We are really, really mindful of allowing the client to put this big of an image, and then right below, you'll see at the very bottom, Dear Brennan, this is the test. But you can see that's a lot of image to put in there. But that's why we test. That's why we help you guys test, make sure emails are getting through. This is a fun one and one of my favorites. Animated GIFs are apparently like the best thing since sliced bread for invites right now. That's all we saw all summer. They're really tough. Like if you're sending an invite with an animated GIF, whether it's through a program or a platform or yourself, really be careful and test that because this guy's doing push-ups. He's getting a workout. It's a great image, but they do get flagged for spam, so just be careful and make sure you test. Another great example of being really careful and mindful of, here's a header image. All this copy is built into Event Farm, so it's real text. Just in case these images don't show, you still have a legible invite that somebody can read and react and engage with, which is the single most important part of what we're talking about. And lastly, a really basic, simple black image, font beneath, RSVP hereby. So there wasn't personalization here. We recommend it, but it's just showing you the examples of maybe do's and don'ts and different options that you have when creating email invitations. So let's think beyond the inbox in the next 5 minutes, and then we're out of here. Email's great. it's not going anywhere. But who has Gmail? Whose inbox just changed drastically? It's kind of cool, right? Like I started digging into it, like this is kind of neat. But if you're sending invites and you're a planner and your invite just did not go into the main filter, went over there, now we have a problem. So anybody that's in the business sending emails, now we have an issue because inboxes are getting smarter. So if our content's not there and we're worried about emails getting through, how can we innovate the invitation process to capture the attention and engage our audiences by other channels and other means? Let's ask ourselves a couple of these questions. Can I segment my audience? Who am I inviting to this event, and where do they focus their time and attention? Is it on Facebook? Is it on LinkedIn? Is it on Twitter? Is it on other channels that we're not talking about? How do they engage, and where do they spend their most time and attention? How can I communicate to them? And then, can I communicate to them in that channel? LinkedIn, you ever try sending somebody a link, like a direct message in LinkedIn with a big link on it? Not going to happen. Okay, maybe we can't send an invitation that way. But we sure can through Twitter, and I'll show you an example of that in a minute. But using multiple channels and where we're taking this, we are in the business of email deliverability and sending invites. But the reality is, everybody's attention is elsewhere. So how can we begin to capture and send exclusive invites through multiple channels? Think about text message. If I get hit with an email in my text message, because somebody clearly has my phone number, and that's okay, it's an exclusive invite, it's still in my name, via Facebook, now we have different sources to see. And somebody sees in a couple places, wow, this is really important because they're communicating to me in the place that's most relevant to my time, my attention, and my focus. And oh, by the way, am I learning and tracking this behavior and creating metrics for myself for future activations and events? We have a client who's a museum here in New York City who's very old school, and they're just coming out of the ages of sending hard, tangible invitations to every guest for every event, which is a lot of work. So we're slowly helping them wean themselves off of understanding who responds to the direct mail piece and who responds to an email invite. Now they're getting smarter. Now they don't have to spend as much money sending an actual hard invitation. They're just sending digital invites. Over time, demographic shifts, focus and reliability, and the savviness of users gets better, and now you're solely relying upon a digital platform as opposed to sending tangible invitations. Tangible invitations are awesome. They sent me a big packet. Like, these things are amazing. But they're not for everybody, and some people would just rather respond to email. So am I learning from these behavior, and I'm understanding what's changing with my consumers or my guests, and make sure I'm communicating to them the right way? So here's something that we've been testing and we've implemented on the farm. We're still wrestling with the official title, like Twitter plus invite, tweet by, I don't know. So you can see here in the top left corner, hey, Brennan, here's your non-transferable Twitter invite to the holiday matinee, awesome lunch on 6/20. So this is not just a link to a public registration page where anybody can set up. This is my link to my event. So we go to the middle image. You can see RSVP for Brennan McReynolds right there. When I click on it, it opens up. My information's already filled out. There's nothing for me to do other than hit, yes, I'm coming. Now, in the instance of, okay, well, how many events do I actually have where all my users are the people I want at the event are followers of me or my brand? But here's a time where you can actually segment your list or your event and communicate to part of your invitees via different social channel. We did an event last week here in New York, right up the street at Basketball City with Casio. We sent out thousands of invitations, but there was a small segment of the invitations that Eminem was the performer, and his talent agency or his manager, they put together a contest on Facebook for Eminem fans. So they held a separate competition contest online to get additional attendees. We included, after that competition was over, that Facebook information into Eventform to ultimately combine with our check-in list and our platform. So not everything has to come through one platform. Be smart, segment your list, understand who needs to be communicated to how, because that's what's going to get your best response. So takeaways. Non-transferability is tough, but it's appropriate when you need to target your audience. Exclusivity is possible, but use your resources. There's a lot of really great companies here. There's a lot of really smart people who are here to help you not go back to the old school way of sending invites. Email deliverability, content equals clicks. Please take the time to put together good, meaningful content. So many times we see people say, well, how should I write my invitation email? I don't know, it's your event. Like, don't just we have default text. And they look at it like, oh, I want to use that. No, it's default text. You don't use default text to send an invite. Stop. I get angry a little sometimes about the invitation innovation. Engage your audience. Understand what's important to them. Get creative in how you communicate to them. And then wrap it all, bring it back in the same place. Hopefully next year I'll see you all here where we can raise our hand again, and hopefully nobody else has sent out old school invitations the email client way. A couple of really cool resources that we use on the farm. The last two, that spamcheck.postmarkapp.com and Contactology, are really good ways if you're sending emails yourself. Throw it in there. You'll get a spam score. You see how you're doing if you learn anything today. And then BizBash invitation site is really cool. Whether you like tangible invitations, digital invitations, they always have some great content up there. So here's our friends at BizBash for keeping us all cool and in the know. But we're about out of time. Any questions before you go have some coffee? This is my contact info. Tweet us at Event Farm. Young lady in the front.
Yeah, my question is, if you have the greatest content in the world and the most beautiful graphics in your email, it doesn't matter if nobody opens your email. So
Sure.
do you have any tips for subject lines?
So definitely don't use the spam words. And I think people want to see and they're being invited to. Like, don't do invite in all caps, but you've been invited to and personalize it. There are some platforms that let you personalize the subject line as well. But be real, be genuine like you're talking to a person. Just because you're sending through a platform doesn't mean it can't be personal. And I think if it feels like you would naturally talk or communicate or invite somebody in person, then that's ultimately what they're going to respond to from an email standpoint. Yeah.
See it, and if they see that it's relevant, they're going to click on it.
So Nick's statement real quick was a great one. And I think Eventbrite did a really cool white paper on the use of mobile and event registration. It's like over 50% at this point of us are now responding to or registering for events via mobile. So if you do a subject line and have an email invitation via mobile, we obviously don't see the whole subject line on our iPhones or Android devices. So make sure it's a short subject line so people can read it and get the point. Any other questions? It's a great question, and there's a lot of good tools that do that. Currently, we don't show the invitee list. A lot of our clients don't want that. It's restricted access. You're being invited for a reason. These 400 people we want in the room, you've been invited, and if it's not important enough to you, then sorry, like don't come. But it's a great question, and it's a great tool to have to be able to see who else is coming, because it does drive. And when you look at behavioral, like I get messages every week from everybody. Hey, these are your friends going to these events. Am I going to look at those events? Absolutely. Our tool is just used for a different purpose. Any other questions before you guys get out of here? Thanks for your time. Have a great break. See you later.